it's very easy to look at history and say, oh, I would never go along with that. But you probably would. You weak, spineless little coward.
You're such a coward.
Today we're talking about the story of Mr. Ron Jones, who's a history teacher in the 60s who did an experiment to demonstrate to his students how people fell for the German government in the 40s.
This is Things I Learned Last Night. It's a comedy podcast where I teach this guy things and he makes fun of me. And so if you don't like that, you might not like this show.
Yeah. We joke around, we get to the story, you learn a lot, but we're going to laugh a lot along the way. So it's going to be a good time.
Great time.
This episode comes out in April.
April
and
15th.
So I don't have a lot of shows in April because Easter's happening, but there's some shows in May, and then I am on tour in June. The church comedy tour is making a run back the first 2 weeks of June. Yeah, praise God. And so, yeah, come to those. All my dates are on my website, jaronmyers.com/shows. We record these so far in advance that I don't know which dates I can tell you about. That's why I'm being like, hey, there's dates, but I promise you they're happening. So June, the church comedy tour, me, Shama Marema, Mike Goodwin. It's going to be a really fun time in the summer. So we'll hope to see you there. All right. Hey, man.
Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of the third wave?
I don't even want to do this. The third wave.
The third wave. What about Ron Jones? Have you ever heard of Ron Jones?
Both of these things sound pretty alien-y to me.
Oh, not at all.
Here's Jones a picture. Sounds like the guy who mows yards in your neighborhood for a living somehow. That's like his job.
Close. Here's a picture of him. I'll show you a picture of him. Here he is.
Ron Jones, for everyone listening, this is a black and white photo. The
black and white photo probably taken.
I'm describing it. This is clearly like the 1953, just a normal dude.
Yeah.
Who he looks like he's mid 30s or 40s.
Yeah, probably.
And he's
something like
a
that.
Mormon missionary.
Oh, I can see it. He does have the short sleeve button up on.
Short sleeve button up.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
like their uniform.
Yeah, you're right. Here he is today.
Why do the Mormons get their own emoji? You know what I'm talking about? The little short sleeve button up?
I don't think that was intentional.
That's what that is.
I don't think that they were like, oh, this is a Mormon.
They're like, that's a Mormon. No, they didn't say that. They didn't say that. You know what they said? This is a Latter-day Saint.
Latter-day Saint. Is Mormon derogatory?
They don't like the term. They're trying to get
Are they really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it's like they don't go by Mormon anymore. They go by the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, because of all the, weird stuff that have I don't know if I don't actually know why. I just know they're trying to get away from the word.
I have never heard of that. Well, anyways, here's Ron.
We have a lot of Mormon listeners, and they don't like how many times we've made fun of Mormon. I'm trying to communicate.
I've never made fun of Mormon.
I haven't either, but I'm trying to communicate hey, I get your culture. I get it. We just think you're freaking weird.
Yeah, I get your culture, but I'm gonna make fun of it.
Yeah. So Ron Jones, not a Mormon.
Yeah. So Ron Jones,
not a Mormon.
Not a Mormon.
Put it out there.
Not a
Make
Mormon,
sure everyone knows.
Not a Mormon, but is a Latter-day Saint.
Oh, for real?
No. But anyways, you're correct. This is an older photo.
Yeah.
Here's a modern photo of him.
I love his shirt.
And here is
love whatever shirt he's wearing.
Here's a modern phone.
Look at his. Don't kind of push through, dude. That's a two-tone shirt.
That is a good shirt.
That's a shirt. That's one shirt on the front. That's a different shirt on the back.
That's an expensive shirt right there. That shirt. That is.
What's the bit? That's an expensive shirt. That's a crazy pattern.
That's a crazy pattern.
Yeah.
And then here he is doing a Joe Biden impression. You can see it though, can't you? He's clearly doing.
He's not.
I don't know if
he's just old and talking, guys. It's just a picture
he's
of
doing that same point that he does.
Yeah, that's what old people do. That.
I'll listen here, bud.
Old people have their 3 fingers down. They do this. This is how all old people point, and it's all. And you can see
they're excited.
You can see that the hand is blurry because it's shaking.
Yeah, he's shaking it.
That's how they do it. They go.
You bet, Jack. Listen here, Jack. I guess we can tell the story. This guy, Ron Jones, he's a teacher. Was a history teacher.
Sure.
And in 1967, April of 1967, They're in the middle of history.
The third wave.
Yeah, and so they're in the first week of April 1967. He's teaching classes, he always does. And a little bit about Ron Jones. Mr. Jones, we should call him because he's the teacher.
Right. Teacher.
Mr. Jones.
Respect.
He was the teacher that every kid loved to get. Like he was kind of like the fun teacher who would always, when he taught, he didn't just sit and lecture and give a homework. Like he did those things where it was like they're like big activities, you know?
Okay.
And it's like you're getting in the class involved. And it's kind of like the my captain kind of teacher, you know? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like everyone's just engaged. Like
What is
he
that
engages
from?
his class. He stands up on the desk. What's that movie called? Oh no.
Flubber.
What is it? What's it?
Dead Poets Society.
Dead Poets Society. Thank you. Flubber.
I just knew that you weren't going to be able to. I knew you weren't going to be able to recall the movie.
I just don't know stuff. I just said I don't know. Okay, whatever. So Mr. Jones was the fun teacher. Like everybody loved to have Mr. Jones in class. But it wasn't just that he was just like a fun, like lax teacher. It wasn't like he's like I'm the cool dad. It was like he was actually a teacher who taught his kids. His kids learned stuff. But he like had fun along the way, you know? Like he engaged his class. He was a good teacher is my point. The point I'm trying to make. And so in April 1967, they are going through the unit on the Holocaust. Okay. And one student asks him a question that I think happens pretty much in every history class when they go through this unit, which is just like, hey, Mr. Jones, why did the German people go along with this? Like, why did so many people fall for this and like fall for what the Nazi regime was trying to do?
Right.
And so he kind of racked his brain.
Because everyone looking back just goes, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would never fall for that. Yeah.
Yep.
And so he wanted to illustrate to his class how it was so easy to fall into like an authoritarian fascist regime.
Yeah.
And he kind of racked his brain trying to come up with a way to teach this.
Like, I got to become a fascist.
And so he decides he's going to do an experiment with his class.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so what he does...
Is this like the whole blue-eyed, green-eyed thing in the class? Is that what he did?
It's very similar. It's not, that's not him, but it's actually very similar.
Yeah.
And so he tells his class, hey, today we're going to do an experiment.
Sure.
And he said, I need you guys to play along. And here's how this works. He said, if you join in on the experiment with me and you fall in line and you follow all my orders and you participate, you'll get an A. And he says, if you don't participate, if you're not a part of what I do, and if you try to rebel, you'll get an F. Unless you start a rebellion that wins. If you start a rebellion that wins, then you
all get A's.
And you as the rebellion get an A. And everyone else who doesn't rebel will.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If you start a rebellion that wins, then all the people who rebelled get an A.
Yeah. And so he says, here are the rules. He said, when the bell rings, you're going to come into class and you're you're going to sit down at your seats and you're going to listen closely. It's just the normal rules of school. No, he says you're going to come in, you're going to get in before the second bell rings. You're going to sit down at your seats and you're going to sit attentive and wait for me to walk in the room. When I walk in the room, you're going to say, good morning, Mr. Jones. And then whenever you have a question, you're going to stand up. You're going to preface any question with Mr. Jones. And then you're going to ask your question in 3 words or less, which is pretty insane. And so you get your...
Mr. Jones, me go pee.
Mr. Jones, why follow Nazi?
Mr. Jones. This is really hard, actually.
I know, you really got to think through your questions.
Is God real?
Mr. Jones, God's not dead.
That's what I was going for, yeah.
And so everything has to be in 3 words or less.
Okay.
And so they came into class that day, came in, sat down, took their seats. He walks in and they all say, hello, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones.
And then they're doing the thing. He walks up to the whiteboard, or I guess it was a chalkboard at the time. And he writes on the wall.
Yeah, we should do an episode about whiteboards. When did those get invented?
I can't think of a better episode, a more riveting topic.
It's going to be better than whatever we just did a couple weeks ago. What was the one we just did that was bad?
What?
We just did an episode that wasn't good, but I don't remember which one it was.
I don't know. What do you oh, Harold von Braunhut. You didn't like that one. You didn't like that guy.
I don't remember.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. So writes strength through discipline on the blackboard.
Okay.
And says, we are the most disciplined people in the school, and we are going to project that discipline to everybody else in the school of how disciplined we are.
Passes out arm sleeves for them all to wear.
We're going to project our strength to the whole school.
Okay.
And so then he drills them on getting in and sitting down quicker, and he times them. And so he's like, we're going to try this again. And he keeps timing them to try to get the fastest time that they can to get to their seat and sit down really, really quick. And this is really all he intended. Was he said, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this, I'm going to show them how quickly they fall in line and want to like obey orders when someone like who's
An
very
authoritative. Yeah.
leads them to
Sure.
follow orders. So he kind of does this whole class, drills them on it, tells them about the strength of discipline and how to get an A and all this stuff. Expects this to be the end of it. Class is dismissed, everyone goes home, he goes home, he sits down and he gets home, he sits down at his recliner, pops a cold one. His wife's yelling at him. His kids are crying. He lights up a cigarette.
He's not an attentive
60s.
husband or father.
60s. He falls asleep, 7 drinks deep, wakes up the next morning. I don't know if any of this happened, but it's the 60s. It's
House is
pretty
burnt up because he dropped his cigarette on the floor.
Yeah,
his wife grabbed the
his
kids
wife
and got
spontaneously combusted.
His wife spontaneously combusted?
Spontaneously combusted. Have you heard? Remember how people used to think.
Speaking of authoritative.
Combustion.
Hey. I'm going to time you and see how long it takes you to sign up for Patreon.
Ooh, yeah. Here we go.
Shush.
Time starts.
Hey.
Oh, I'm trying to start the time. Oh,
Quit
sorry.
talking when
Okay,
I'm talking.
Sorry about that. Okay.
You don't talk
Sorry,
when a man speaks.
I'm trying to stop.
You don't talk when a man
I'm
talks.
trying really hard to stop. All right. I'm trying to be.
Join us on
compliant.
Patreon,
I'm trying to be disciplined here.
or I'll bully you. You better join us on Patreon.
Or I'm gonna punch you.
Fall in line. Fall in line this summer at Toyota dealerships for the Toyota-thon. Like, imagine if that's what marketing became.
Marketing was just being very authoritative.
Just someone on camera smoking a pipe, just
Buy this Jeep.
buy this jam for $28.
He asked me to. He's the
He
leader.
didn't even ask. He
I have
told
to.
me to.
Yeah, the
Any
leader said I need
questions?
to.
I have a few too many
Too
words.
many words. 3 words
Honestly,
or fewer.
dude, freaking,
Pretty clutch.
that's crazy. Too many words. That's
Too many
crazy.
words.
Someone's like, I have a question. Nope.
Too many words.
Narrow it down.
I have to
cut
start
it
with my
down to
name. Start with my
3.
name.
Start with my name.
name.
Okay. So he goes home that night before you went off on this weird tangent.
Yeah, he goes home that night. I don't know, does whatever he does at night, and then comes back to school. Walks in the classroom, and the class is all seated at their seat, hands crossed. And then he walks in, and they say, "Good morning, Mr. Jones." And he sees them, and he thinks, "Oh, they're still doing this?" And he's like,
But this is day 2, though.
This is day 2. Yeah. So he comes back. He expected it to be a 1-class session, and he
Sure.
expected the message to hit home, that class to be like,
He's
"Oh,
like, "You
we all
guys
fell
did
in
it."
line."
Yeah, everyone gets an A.
But they didn't get it. And like, so he came back and they're all still doing it. And he's like, "Oh, okay. I see what I have to do."
This
And
has
so-
got to go, which my wife is a teacher. What if
Yeah.
now, years later, this is heralded as this big social experiment that he pulled off and this big lesson that he taught these kids, right? Here's what I think actually happened. I think it's the 60s. I think you're a history teacher. I think this group of kids sucks. And so you go, "Hey guys, we're going to do this experiment where everyone comes in and they shut up." And
Hey, you can't say more than
like
3
he
words.
walks in the next day and they're like, "Hello, Mr. Jones." And he's like, "This worked
He's like, "Oh
so well."
my gosh." He literally is like, "Hold on. I'll be back in a second." And he
goes to every
runs
teacher.
to the teacher's lounge.
Guys.
guys,
You just got to
guys,
frame it as an experiment.
You just got to be a dictator.
You just got to be a dictator.
You just got to be a dictator.
You just have to rule by strength.
You got to lead strength.
You have to
through
squash
discipline.
dissent. You
Don't let him say more than 3 words. 3 words is the
That's
cap.
it.
Yeah. I found the secret. He wrote a book called The Secret. And so, yeah, he walks in and he sees this and he like stops in his tracks and he's like, oh, I see what I must do. So then he turns and he walks.
I see what I must do. That's how every life project starts, is where one day you wake up and you go, I see what I must do.
I see what I must do. And so he walks to the whiteboard and quick thinking, like thinking on his toes here. He walks to the whiteboard and on the whiteboard, he writes strength through community. And he says, we have to form a community. And he says, what we're going to call ourselves is the third wave, because the third wave in a series of waves is always the strongest. And then he teaches them a salute. And so he teaches them this salute to form a wave with their hand. And he says, when you see each other in the hallway, give each other this salute. This is how you know that they're in the group.
It's just me giving my heart.
Yeah. I'm just, my heart goes out to you. And so, yeah, so this is, there's been a lot of dramatizations of this.
Cobra.
So he teaches them this salute.
Okay.
And he says, when you go around the school, give the salute to everyone you see. If they give the salute back, they're in the group. If they don't, they're outside the group.
Okay. In the early days of this show, we did like affiliate ads where we were like, hey, sign up for Grammarly and use code TILLN and we got like 15 cents. And now we just do Patreon. It's a much better way. It's better for us as creators. It's better for you as listeners. And it's a much more fun way for us to interact. We do monthly hangouts like on Zoom. We just hang out and play games online and get to know each other. It's a really fun time. So, but still use our code TILLN at Grammarly.com because I think it's still active.
It is still
we
active.
Might get like a couple cents from that.
Yeah.
But join us on Patreon because we're having a great time.
Yeah. If you don't, we're going to have to start doing mobile game ads. And he says, what we need to do is we need to grow in number. We need to help bring other people into our community. And he says, so go around your school and give the salute. People who do not give them the salute, teach them about our strength through discipline,
right,
and our strength through community and how that will help them in their life. And so then...
So now he's got them evangelizing.
Essentially, yeah. And he says, what I want you to do is I want you to now go out into the school and when you evangelize to non-members, and then we also want you guys to start designing banners, design third wave banners. He like draws the logo of just like a wave crashing and then puts the words the third wave around it and says, make these banners, put them up all over the school, and start evangelizing. And so that was the mission he gave them for the second day. School class ends, they go out, they start making these banners. They start putting these banners all over the school, telling other kids about them and like setting up tables. And so he comes back. There's 30 kids that are in this history class, right? He comes back the next day, and when he comes in, there's 43 kids in the room. And so they've done their job and they've brought some of their kids.
They've been fruitful and multiplied.
Exactly. So he walks in the room and they say, good morning, Mr. Jones. And they're all sitting there at their desk. Well, they're now overflowing, but they're all in there. And he's like, good morning, Mr. Jones. And so he walks up to the chalkboard and he writes strength through action on the whiteboard or the chalkboard.
Now you're going to kill everyone who doesn't know this.
And so he gives them all member cards. And he says, here's your ID. This is your identification as part of the membership. And he says, continue to spread the message. You're taking action. You're spreading the message. And then he says, what I want you to do is if there are any students that are not abiding by the rules, that are not showing discipline, that are not showing community, that are not taking action, he says, I want you to then report them to me. And by the end of the day, 23 students had been reported as people who were not a part of, or were not following the instructions, not following the rules.
Okay.
And this is now starting to spread outside the classroom and become a thing. By the end of the day, they estimate there was somewhere around 200 kids that had joined the wave, or the third wave.
Yeah.
And a kid came to Mr. Jones.
Which, the wave? Cool name for a youth group.
And so
yours was going to be called the Vault?
Yeah, mine was going to be the Vault. But
we were just talking about how we used to dream of having youth groups.
Well, my dream was I wanted to like buy an old bank with tithe money and then put it in the vault.
Yeah.
And so the service it was in the vault.
The youth group was
in the vault, and it was,
or the whole service, the church.
I mean, I guess grown-up service would have to happen upstairs.
Grown-up service
Yeah, forget the grown-ups. That would have to happen upstairs, but our youth group
would be in the vault.
Because I, as the youth pastor, would make decisions on what location we would purchase. And I would say, I don't care where you guys meet. You couldn't meet in the old loan officer's office. We'll be in the vault.
Yeah.
That is logical.
Heck yeah, dude. That's why my youth group, The Wave, was at the Whitewater. Yeah, that's where our youth group met, dude. We met at the wave pool at Whitewater.
Yeah. And it was
no lifeguards because Jesus is my lifeguard. He walks on water. And so my lifeguard walks on water.
And every service ended with an altar call, and you played Let It Rain.
And then we picked one
it with the
kid
wave
to
pool.
bully. And we put them on a little raft, and we pushed them into the wave pool.
Pushed them out to sea.
And all of us pre-wrote, look at her chubby little cheeks. You know, look at her chubby little cheeks. You know, your eyebrows are bad. And then at the end of it, we were like, do you feel closer to Christ? Now that we've broken you down to your purest form. You can't be David if we're not your Goliath. That's how we read it.
I love the we pre-wrote. Everybody wrote on flashcards their
yeah, because we chose the next week's like next week's gonna be Cassie, and we're gonna make fun of her.
We're gonna make fun of her, and then every kid came. They read it, and then they nailed it to the cross. You got weird eyebrows.
You got weird eyebrows, and when you say you have weird eyebrows.
And meanwhile, this kid is drowning in the wave pool.
No lifeguards. That's the whole point.
Jesus is our lifeguard. Yeah. Needless to say, we're not youth pastors anymore.
Did you do a nail to the cross night where you nailed your sins to the cross?
Not when I was a youth pastor, but I did it with tongues of fire.
Yeah. When we were that was popular when we were students.
Yeah, I mean, it was popular when we were students, but I did it with tongues of fire too. Because remember, we set that cross up out back.
That's right.
Yeah, and then we did it for that.
Your sins to the cross.
Yeah, we did it.
What sin did you write?
Probably one that wasn't that big of a deal. I was afraid someone was going to read it.
Yeah.
Pride.
Lying
About
on
this.
That's what I was lying on this cross. Yeah, it's my biggest. Good thing. Okay, this reminds. I know I've said this in the podcast before too, but like the kid at my youth group who, and this was one of those moments where I was just stunned as a leader. Was the kid who was like cussing up a storm.
Yeah.
And like all this stuff. Like he was causing a lot of trouble. Not just cussing up a storm. He's causing a lot of trouble. He's annoying a lot of kids. He's being a general menace.
Yeah.
And then so later that night, I was like, hey man, the way you behaved today is not all right. And he goes, I got saved during service. That's all behind me. And I was just like, I mean, yeah, man, I guess so.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't hold me accountable for how I behaved at 4 p.m. because I got saved at 6.
That was the old me.
That was afternoon me.
Yeah, Christ has entered my life now.
There's 2 versions of me. There's afternoon and after Christ. So anyway, now we've got like 200 kids.
Now he's got 200 kids
wave,
who are now inspired.
which is my youth group name, The Wave.
And so a student comes to him.
Washes over me.
There's now like
a tidal wave.
There are now multiple groups in the school. There's obviously like all the kids who aren't a part of this class, and they're seeing this and be like, what is happening in Mr. Jones's class?
Yeah.
But then there's the kids in Mr. Jones's class that are a part of it. And then there's the kids that have been banished. We haven't talked about these yet.
Okay.
But starting on the first day, kids who had issues with this, Mr. Jones would say to the library, don't come back. And they had to go be in the library. And if they tried to come the next day, he said, no, you're in the library. And he wouldn't let them come to class.
Okay.
And so these were the quote unquote rebelling. And so these are the kids who aren't a part of it. And he tells the kids in the class, if you see some of these
those kids in the library, there's one that wore a leather jacket. There's one little nerdy kid. There's one real popular girl.
I think it was a freak.
There's one goth girl.
Yeah. I think it was a freak, a geek, jock,
nerd.
No, it was the geek was the nerd.
Geek yet.
It was definitely freak, geek, jock.
Jock.
I can't remember what the other two were.
A really pretty girl.
Yeah.
What would she be called?
I can't remember.
Shoot.
A preppy? I don't know.
You know this movie we're referencing.
You know what
Jumanji?
we're talking. Anyways, so these kids are getting banished to the library.
Yeah.
And he tells the class, if you see them try to get in, don't let them come in.
Yeah.
You got to keep these kids
at all
from coming in
costs.
Yeah. And they also know, and the kids kind of put this together on their own.
Yeah.
The kids say, oh, well, the rebels, they get an A if they have a successful rebellion.
Oh, that's true.
And so we can't let them successfully rebel, which means we need to protect Mr. Jones. So one of the students volunteers to be Mr. Jones' bodyguard. And he says, I'll follow you around school all day and I'll protect you.
Wait, they think that the rebellion's going to kill him?
I don't know what they thought was going to happen.
You get an A if you kill that guy. That's what, someone in the library was like, how do we rebel? I think we have to kill him.
I think we have to kill Mr. Jones.
I think we have to kill Mr. Jones. All right. Any other ideas?
Anyone want to kill Mr. Jones?
I'll do it. I want to get in the corner.
I'll do it.
And then the geek is like, no,
we don't have to kill him.
I'll do it.
Yeah, because he's trying to impress that girl.
And my dad saw my birdhouse.
That's exactly what the library was like, I think.
Yeah.
I think the library was exactly
the
like
library
that.
was like, who's going to kill
very
Mr.
tense
Jones?
in there.
And the librarian was like,
excuse me.
That's why you have to. That's actually why you have to whisper in the library now. Is that the librarian didn't want to become an accomplice to your crimes?
The librarian's like, please.
The librarian's like, hey, please whisper.
Please whisper.
Because if the police question me, I can say I didn't hear them.
I need plausible.
Unlike this
deniability.
counselor next door, who has no alibi.
And is a mandated reporter.
And is going through something right now.
Sorry about your divorce.
To me, you'll always be divorced.
What is happening?
Our show sucks, dude. Okay, anyway. So you've got your rebellion in the library.
The rebellion's in the library.
But you've also got kids. So
you've got kids who are worried about Mr. Jones.
So this kid is like, I want to be your bodyguard.
Yeah. Well, it's starting to get a little tense in the school, I should say. The kids who are rebelling there's starting to be like shouting matches going on that look like they could turn into actual violence.
Okay.
And there are kids who
And the administrator's like, hey man, what are you doing? And Mr. Jones is like, I'm proving a point.
He's like, don't worry, I'm teaching them. They're learning. It's this.
Don't worry. Let the wave crash over. Waves of mercy. Waves of grace.
The administrator's
everywhere I look, I see your face.
And the administrator's like, what did you just say to me?
You came from heaven to earth to show the way. From the earth
to
the cross. My debt. What's debt?
To pay.
I know, but what was the sign for my debt? Was it this?
No, that's
pay?
Jesus.
I understand that, but what was the debt sign?
My debt. I don't remember.
From the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. That was wonderful worship. Rebecca, you stink. You smell like a hog. We're also gonna pass the plate for offering this time.
I hate that I didn't see where that bit was going the whole time. You did the whole thing. I had no idea what you were setting up.
So I mean, it's getting pretty tense.
There's some tension rising in the school.
Sure.
Between both sides, of the, like both factions.
Yeah.
But it's also between the kids that are part of the third wave evangelizing, because there's kids who do not want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like they're setting up booths in the school and trying to recruit kids to it.
Sure.
And when kids do not want to join, they get aggressive and they block their way in the hallway and they're like surrounding kids.
No, you will join.
Yeah, and like basically forcing them in. And like, you need to be disciplined and we're going to show our strength through discipline to you.
Yeah.
So you join the group. And so it's getting a little aggressive and a little stressful. And so this kid comes forward. He says, I'm going to be your bodyguard. And then a handful of other kids see this and say, oh, we're going to join. We're going to be your bodyguards together.
Okay.
And they, on their own,
they escort Mr. Jones out to his Volkswagen Beetle.
On their own, they make...
He didn't get that joke.
What was the Volkswagen Beetle?
Volkswagen Beetle?
I don't
Do you not know about, did they successfully PR their way out of that?
Herbie fully loaded? That was a pretty bad movie, yeah. Oh, are you talking about the Nazis?
Are we fully loaded? Oh my gosh. Oh, that hurts. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Volkswagen, they made all the vehicle for the Nazis.
That's right.
I was like, they PR their way out of it. And you go, yeah, the Herbie Fully Loaded movie.
Yeah,
what a disaster for the brand.
That hurt them.
Dude, when Lindsay Lohan went off the deep end, we were like, no.
Herbie fully loaded.
Volkswagen. Jeez. Herbie That is crazy. It's more and more terrible. Oh, they should have made Herbie an honorary transformer. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Oh. The movie references are off the charts. Okay. So a group of them unprompted did what?
A group of them that said they were going to be the bodyguards came together and unprompted on their own. These high school students in 1967, they made themselves armbands that they would wear with the logo on it. Black armbands. They were black. Okay. And they had the third wave logo on their armband and they were his security, they called themselves.
Great.
And they marched around school protecting Mr. Jones. This is the third day of the experiment.
This is day 3.
This is day 3. Over 200 kids are involved.
Day 3, they've made armbands.
Yes, yeah. And so on the 4th day,
which you can also buy TILLN armbands on our store. He's like, no. What if we did though? You know?
That's crazy. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like it, there is some great news for you. We have a mailing list. In that mailing list, we give updates on past episodes. So things in the news, things that happen for episodes. We've got over 200 episodes we've done. And every week, things are changing. New updates are coming out. And we're keeping you up to date on what's happening in the happenings of TILLN Topics. So if you want to keep learning stuff, even beyond the content of the episodes, that's a great place to do it. Also, we give updates on things that's happening in the TILLN verse. I like that. I've never said TILLN verse before, but I'm sticking with it. If you want to know what's happening in the TILLN verse, that's the best place to do it. You can go to TILLN.com. There's a link in the description, or you can text TILLN to 66866. There's a lot of ways to sign up for the mailing list to make sure you keep up to date with everything that we've talked about and everything that's going on in the TILLN verse. But anyways, now back to this episode. Imagine Fourth Wall introduced that on the shop. Branded armbands. So on the 4th day, Jones comes in and he's like, this is getting a little out of my control. And so he's like, I have to end this. And so what he does is he steps into class that day, walks in.
Good morning, Mr. Jones.
200 kids in there. Yeah, they say, good morning, Mr. Jones.
200 kids in his classroom?
Yeah, they're packing in because they're all like, we're a part of the movement now. And so he comes in and he says to them, in his brain, he says, I have to end this. And so he comes to the kids.
And then he gets in front of him and his brain goes, you're in charge. Is that what happened?
So he walks up to them and he says, boys and girls, today you need to know that this is more than just our school. What was their school called? It was,
he goes, I need to end this. Guys, this is bigger than you could ever imagine. Because of the work you've done these last 3 days, the president of the United States wants to take me out. That's crazy. He's like walking. This is the equivalent of you being like, I got to break up with this girl. And then you walk in and you go, let's move in together.
Your brain's like, no.
What
are you
saying?
saying?
What are you doing? I will move into your place. I think your apartment is better than my apartment.
Yeah. It's pretty similar. So he comes in, he walks in the room.
This is bigger than our school.
This is bigger than Cubberley High. That's their name of their school, Cubberley High.
Okay.
He says, this is bigger. This is actually a nationwide movement. I haven't told you this yet, but the third wave is a nationwide movement. This is happening in schools across the country. There are comparable size organized groups coming together. And our goal is to create a third party of the American government. That's why we're the third wave. And he says, we have a presidential candidate.
I have to end it.
Exactly. And he says, we have a presidential candidate who is going to step forward and be our representative in this coming election this year. I can't remember if there was an election this year. But anyways, he said the next election, our president in the next election. And he says...
Yeah, it would have been 68.
Yeah, and so he says... we're going to hear from him tomorrow. He says, tomorrow we're going to have an assembly. We're going to meet in the auditorium. We're going to have an assembly, and we're going to watch a video that he has sent us. And he's going to tell us all about his vision for our country. And he says, continue your work. Remember, strength through discipline, strength through community, strength through action. And then he dismisses them. Oh, and he also says, do not let the rebels into the meeting tomorrow. And so the next day rolls around, and at 11:50 a.m., all the students arrive in the auditorium. A group of them block the doors, so no one else who doesn't do the hand signal can enter. So everyone's doing the little wave hand signal to enter in the room. And they all come in.
This is day 5.
This is the 5th day of the experiment. Yeah. There's well over 200 kids in this room. They come in the room, and then he has them kind of do their exercises. So he has this whole group of like 200 kids. He's standing up in the front of this auditorium, and they're shouting, strength through discipline, strength through action, all their things. And he's having them all do their salutes and show all the things that they learned and do their like, hello, Mr. Jones, like all this stuff, drilling them to sit down. And then he says, okay, it's time. We're going to hear from our new leader.
Yeah.
And so he rolls the little TV car on stage, and this is a 1967 TV. He rolls onto stage.
Yeah.
He rolls it out.
That's the cart.
Yeah. And he turns it on, and it's static for an uncomfortably long time, minutes of just static. And the whole room's just sitting there watching the static, and they're starting to get a little antsy, and they're looking around at each other, and they're confused. And then it's a Hitler speech comes up on screen.
Yeah.
And they watch this entire Hitler speech. Is translated. They watch this entire speech. And then he turns it off, and he says, this is how the Germans fell for Hitler. He said, the same way you all fell for this movement so quickly, so easily, is the way the German people fell for what he did. The kids were traumatized. They had to hire therapists for all of them. It was 1967. They didn't do that. But the kids...
Yeah, they didn't believe in therapy.
The kids were all traumatized. I watched an interview with some kids who are now all adults, and I just remember looking around and
except for one of them. It's when you say that, who are now all adults, except for one.
One of them didn't grow.
And we've been studying him for a long time.
Confused. He's been in a lab in Chicago ever since.
Yep.
No, they interviewed them, and they were like, yeah, you look around the room and just every kid is just sobbing.
Yeah.
Like some kids got up and ran out of the room crying. Yeah. Like it was just like a devastating moment for all of them when they just realized like, oh, I could have done that. Like,
Yeah.
because especially kids, like, but most people are like, oh, I would never do that.
Yeah.
And then for them to just like in such a visceral way realize they would, and they kind of did. And so
they were all boomers. So
yeah. And so he had like
just pointing out the generation that it is.
So he gave them a lecture. Sounds like it was like bad, but he taught them about Hitler from the auditorium that day.
And then all those rebels in the library got an F because they didn't succeed.
I've seen people talk about this. Those kids had to be insufferable for like a week or two.
Oh,
like I'm sure they were just like, oh, remember when you guys were all Nazis?
Remember when you guys were Nazis for a week? Wow.
Here's the rub though.
Yeah.
I always gotta give you the rub.
Gotta give me the rub.
This had gotten pretty out of hand, and it teetered on violence.
They were like, "What about the other schools?" It's like, guys, they're not.
There was no other schools.
There's not other schools.
And the other teachers in the school were very uncomfortable with what was happening that week, and so it took a while. But a couple months later, the teachers managed to get together and
stage their own rebellion.
They killed Mr. Jones.
Took a while
because
but
the bodyguards were gone. The bodyguards stopped
those
guarding.
Armband kids are gone.
The armband kids are gone. Now's our chance.
Shot.
Get them while the armbands cry.
What's crazy is the CIA did it. The CIA killed Mr. Jones, a humble history teacher.
No, a bunch of the other teachers, they had got together with the administration and they got him fired because they were like, look what he did. Like he like manipulated all these kids.
Oh, sure.
And so he lost his job. And he was pretty bitter about it because at the end of the day, like it's an interesting thing because this is the 60s. And so it's a time when you could kind of get away with traumatizing kids.
Kind of, yeah.
But I don't know. It's just so interesting because like you definitely couldn't get away with doing this now. Like you would get in a lot of trouble for doing something like this now.
Sure.
But then I would have thought you could have, but I guess not. I guess a lot of teachers had a problem with that. But all those kids remember this lesson to this day. Probably will never forget that lesson. Like that.
And that's what the teachers were. The teachers were like, they're forgetting our freaking science lessons, but they're remembering this very impactful history
This
lesson.
teacher did too good of a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they got him fired, and he was very bitter about it for a long time. But after a few years, he was able in the 70s to kind of get past that, move past it, and then write a book about that.
Yeah.
So he kind of wrote essentially a memoir, and it became a pretty I don't know if it was a bestseller, but it sold well enough to then get adapted into a TV movie special called The Wave.
Okay.
And then ever since then, that special...
The book was called Purpose Driven Life?
Yes. The book was just The Third Wave.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's been adapted into tons and tons and tons of films and movies and plays and all those things to kind of illustrate that thing. And so
he's made a lot of money on that stuff then.
I don't know. Yeah,
he sold the rights to the story.
Yeah, look at that painting. He's doing well. Look at that phone. He's doing really well.
That's a painting. That's either that painting in the background is either $10,000.
Yeah.
Or his grandkid
made it and he framed it. Yeah. One of the two. It's hard. You could never know. But yeah,
that corded phone on the wall. Go back to that corded phone. My wife wants one of those real bad. She wants a corded phone.
That's so hipster.
She wants a corded phone so bad.
That is so lame. Honestly, though, kind of cool, but also very lame.
Well, there's ones you can Bluetooth to your phone.
That's pretty cool.
And she wants it in our living room. She wants a
It's cool, but it's also so lame.
Because she wants to be able to sit on the couch and be like, oh my gosh, and twirl the cable, and like honestly.
Who is she calling that she wants to twirl the cable
Cecily,
with, though?
her best friend.
Oh, that's.
I mean, you and I talk on the phone enough that I'll probably sit on my couch and be like,
twirl the cable.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Gosh. So, anyways,
you're in how much debt? Buddy, I already told you I can't give you any more money this month. Listen, hey, I love you. But I have to set boundaries here. No more.
No more.
All right. I'm going to read you the note cards. Your hairline is receding. Your tattoos look stupid. My parents support us on Patreon.
I'm drowning on the other line with my AirPods in.
You wear Casio watches.
And so it's been adapted 1,000 times. But by the end of it, their school was covered in, and I'm pretty sure these are from dramatizations, but covered in these banners that students had hung up around and made themselves and to try to get people to join the movement. My favorite adaptation, though, is the German adaptation in 2008. They did an adaptation of this.
I was going to say, I think they did it in 1944, bro.
No. But the German adaptation is The Wave. It's just called The Wave.
Yeah.
But in German, that translates to Die Well, which I love.
You love Die Well?
I think that's just such a hard, like...
Die Well.
Die Well. That's cool. That's really cool. So
live fast, die
well. Yeah. So this is the story of Ron Jones and his third wave movement. Pretty good lesson, I think.
Wow.
I wish teachers could traumatize our kids today. I think it teaches them
listen,
more.
we've tried to. We need to come up with a hand signal for TILLN followers.
Yeah.
You know, but we've been trying. Like you should be saying fiddle off to people
in public. Yeah. If you see them and if they don't say fiddle off,
beat them up.
Beat the heck out. Tell them to comply.
Comply!
Say fiddle off, and if they act confused, yell comply.
The next episode you're going to watch of this show is Mouse Utopia. Comply. So, Mouse Utopia is an experiment where a guy had a bunch of mice, and he was like, with the fat ones bully the little ones. It was a kind of a weird thing where it was essentially like with. Do you remember it? It was essentially like if we fed these ones more than these other mice, what would happen? It was a whole social experiment among these mice. Very, very interesting
really good
episode.
One,
So that's available to you. And next week's episode is available right now to our Patreon supporters. Patreon's a way to help us grow the show, to keep making episodes, and you get early access, ad-free, Discord with us, and a lot of our other fans. Get to make some friends centered around the show. So we hope to see you there. If not, thank you so much for being a part of our show. Things on Last Night is an evergreen podcast, and that means we're on the Evergreen Podcast Network, and also that we're never gonna die. Evergreen. We're here forever. So when in doubt, comply.
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 Comply.